So far away, Lucas, and lovely audience at home, same question. Who is your favourite character from Mortal Kombat?
I mean, it's got to be Sub-Zero. They are quite literally the coolest.
It's not the T-1000, or Leatherface, or the Alien, or Omni-Man, or Homelander.
I didn't want to classify guest characters. I don't feel like that's the correct answer. They're not a Mortal Kombat character.
Not RoboCop?
RoboCop's cool, but they're not a Mortal Kombat character. They just found their way stuck in this hellscape.
That is true. Let's talk about friendship. Mortal Kombat is a series famous for pushing the graphical limitations of whatever console it finds itself on, almost purely to realise more realistic, digitised hyperviolence.
Yeah! Johnny Cage wins.
And I can't put clips in of this because YouTube does not like Mortal Kombat clips of the fatalities and stuff, but if you're watching a video on Mortal Kombat, you know what Mortal Kombat's all about. And I'm not going to put the clip in, Lucas, but do you have like a particular finisher that lives in your head rent-free? Because I think the one everyone always mentions is like Noob Saibot's, right? The Wishbone one where it's like the...
Oh, yeah, that was one that was in my head, but I wasn't sure which character did that one.
Like the
but
Wishbone
yeah,
one.
for sure. I think the one that I remember a lot in one of the newer games, maybe not from the most brutal, but just when Johnny Cage smashes someone's skull in with a trophy.
That one's rough, right? Like, I love that Johnny I was going to say Johnny Knoxville for a second. He'd be a great Mortal Kombat guest character, right?
Johnny Knoxville, like, you could have the gimmick of Johnny Knoxville, like, can't be killed with a fatality. He just takes the hit every time.
Always fatalities kill himself instead, right? He'd be like meat from like Armageddon and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I think the other one people mention a lot is like Kung Lao's, where it's like the razor hat in the ground and then drags you over it. That one just feels mean.
Yeah. I do give credit to Mortal Kombat 9 for they really found the line between just being gruesome and having a lot of fun and creativity with them, whereas Mortal Kombat 1 just feels like way too much.
Do you like scary movies?
You kidding? Murder Hornets paid for my mansion.
Yeah, it really does. And that's why we can't put clips in of it, because it's so realistic. YouTube sometimes flags it as real. But the game has always been the subject of criticism. In its earliest days, that criticism largely came from like concerned parental groups. Groups that the makers of Mortal Kombat decided to troll with friendship.
Friendship. Scorpion wins.
And I'm presuming when you're talking about friendship, you're talking about the anti-fatalities known as friendships.
Yeah, so in Mortal Kombat, there are these things called fatalities, and they have been in the game in one way, shape, or form since Mortal Kombat has been a thing. And in the earliest days of Mortal Kombat's history, they were actually a secret. So they're the thing that usually sells the game now, but for Mortal Kombat 1 in the arcades, they were a secret. And the idea behind them was, one, they're a victory lap of sorts for the player to like style on their opponent especially hard by like ripping their skull off or, you know, turning into a giant dragon and biting them in half.
Sonya wins.
Secondly, when people start pulling these things off, that's going to start some rumours. And those rumours might fuel additional sales from players trying to find all of them. And that's been a staple of the Mortal Kombat series, right? Of the hidden secrets.
Yeah, and them leaning into that kind of stuff. And it's one thing that I would say that maybe not necessarily the brutality of the fatalities, that was obviously an aspect of a thing that's cool to see, but the secret aspect, especially when it was an arcade-focused game,
Yeah.
like, that must have sold a lot of, maybe not copies, but, you know, arcade machines to arcades, and must have made a lot of profit, because people every now and then, as you see, would just see someone pull off this thing that they didn't know was possible.
And like, how did you do that? I'm not telling you. Play against me. Put a quarter in and play against me.
If you beat me, I'll tell you how to do a fatality, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the existence of characters like Reptile, right? Where they put Reptile in, the secret third green ninja, and they put like random references into Reptile, like, ooh, look to La Luna. And all these like weird, obscure like tips and hints for how to find Reptile. right? It's been a staple of Mortal Kombat for years, and I love it. I love the idea of, like, especially in, like, modern day, a game having secrets. And do you see they actually managed to pull this off with Mortal Kombat 1 with Floyd?
No, I've heard nothing about Floyd.
Well, Floyd is a secret 7th ninja character who's bright pink. Pink Floyd. Right? And
right.
They
I
randomly
need to see
start...
this because...
Yeah, in Mortal Kombat 1, randomly, after like one of the updates, you collect these things called like Floyd coins. You're like, wait, what? What the fuck's a Floyd coin? And after you collect enough of them, you get challenged by a random pink ninja with like a super powered moveset on a secret stage. That's like the Unreal like grass stage that you'd see on like those crap videos, like, ooh, Sonic in Unreal. Right? And he just kicks your fucking ass.
This is like a Smash Bros. Secret character from back in the day, right?
Yeah. Like, that's the thing about the fact that in the modern day, with the internet and everything, they managed to put a secret in that people actually had to work to find out.
Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't actually know anything about this because I'd only played a little bit of Mortal Kombat 1 with you on release.
Yeah, and obviously, it being the internet, people immediately like just tore the game apart, and you can find guides on exactly how to find and fight Floyd for yourself. But there was at least like a couple of weeks where people were like, wait, have you heard there's a new character called Floyd in the game? Like, wait, what? There's a pink ninja now? So they are keeping that tradition alive. It's a lot harder for them to maintain secrets, given the ubiquity of like instant access to information now, but the fact they're trying and still putting in secrets every now and again, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do too, and I think there's still elements of that, because as far as I'm aware, unless, you buy the fucking, like, fatality coins for easy fatalities, I think that a lot of the fatalities are, like, still hidden before you actually use them in the game and stuff, right?
As are all the brutalities, yes. As you play through, like, the game modes, you don't unlock the ability to do the brutalities, you just unlock the menu option to know how to do them.
Yeah.
But basically, from second one, you can do all the fatalities and brutalities. You just got to know what the secret inputs are.
Or you've just got to watch like the IGN video of how to do a fatality on day one. Right?
And that's the thing now of like, within like an hour of a character being released, there is like all fatalities and brutalities compilation on YouTube somewhere. But I appreciate they still try it, right? 'Cause that must be so demoralizing for people making Mortal Kombat, right? Like they put all the effort into putting these secrets and these like hidden Easter eggs in, and within like a day of the content being released, there's already like a compilation of it out there with 1 million views, and no one needs to go look it in the game.
Yeah, and obviously you can opt to not look at that stuff, but for the most part, as a community, it ruins that experience just day one. And it reminds me when Sakurai is asked about Smash Bros. And putting in story mode again. They're like, no, I'm not going to do it because you all fucking ruined it.
Yep, and that was Brawl, right? Brawl had like Subspace Emissary, which is a really fun story mode, which involves like every character in that game interacting in cool, fun, unique ways. And Sakurai's like, when asked, would you ever do that again in a later Smash Bros. Game? No, because every fucker just watched it on YouTube.
Yeah, and he's like, nobody actually played through the story mode to see those cool cutscenes that were really good looking at the time and still to this day are like fun to watch and see all those, as you say, unique interactions of crossover and stuff. And just, all that effort was wasted because people didn't want to buy and play through the game. They just watched it on a YouTube video.
I often think, like, do developers get annoyed by that? Like, say, people making God of War. Do they get annoyed where, like, one day after God of War Ragnarok came out, there's, like, the 8-hour compilation of all the cutscenes? They must do, right?
I imagine that must be really frustrating. I can understand wanting and maybe, kind of bearing with the idea of streaming, because I'm sure it must be a frustrating aspect of releasing a game is that a lot of people will just watch somebody else play it, but that also is spreading awareness of the game and getting people involved in that community in a different
There are
manner and
multiple
stuff.
ways to look at it, right? And it's ostensibly advertising for the game. But I do wonder if that must be frustrating, like from a creative standpoint, of like years creating something and people just watch the compilation on YouTube and don't even bother like playing the crafted experience you spent years creating for them.
Yeah, because at least going in and watching a Twitch stream and talking and interacting with like the people in chat and stuff and having discussions around the game and watching the game being played out in real time, that's very different from just watching, as you say, like the 8-hour cutscene compilation video and never interacting with the game ever again.
Yeah, well, speaking of like watching other people play the game, there's a great story from like when Mortal Kombat was first being tested in arcades, and I forget if it was like John Tobias or Ed Boon or someone else from the development team, but they mention how Fatalities were a secret thing we put into the game, and they were discovered on literally the first day we tested it in arcades.
Wow.
Like apparently, like some 12-year-old kid playing Sub-Zero accidentally did a fatality.
Scorpion, win.
But when he... Oh, there's a fly in the room. Oh, God. It came in. But apparently, like, whoever from the development team was watching it happen, when they went over to talk to the kid's like, did you see that? I was like, yeah, that's a secret that's supposed to be in the game. Well done on, like, finding it. That kid apparently ran around the arcade and told everybody what he'd done. And when he came back to the machine, he'd forgotten how to do it because he just mashed buttons and it happened. But when they asked like the developer to confirm, well, you saw me do it, right? He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because they saw how many quarters he and his friends were putting into the machine to try and replicate it, and thought, I'm just not going to tell him. It's like, so the kid is like, you saw me do a fatality, right? It's like, I don't know what you're talking about, kid. Put another quarter in.
I think you're just making it up.
And you got to admit, that's a fucking baller move, right? I don't know what you're talking about.
That is a baller move. I love that idea of just gaslighting this kid, essentially. But the other way that I could have seen it being done is like, just, say like Ed Boon just walks up to the arcade machine, pulls off a fatality, doesn't tell anyone how to do it, and just walks away. That would be the other way to do it, right?
Yeah, I think it on the attract screen, like fatalities would play in like the thing to get people over to play. So like, they hinted that they were in the game, but they never told you how to do them.
And obviously the game prompts you of like, finish him.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? Like, give me your best. Like, finish him. Because we've got to give like credit to Ed Boon, right? Still the voice of Scorpion all these years later.
I'm not gonna say that to the bike because it's gonna. Get over here!
Oh god, yeah.
Still does it. There's a great video where like I think it's Conan O'Brien and like his Clueless Gamer series. He's like talking to Ed Boon and so, I love like the guy says like, get over here. And just Ed Boon's like, yeah, that's me. It's like, what? Can you do one now? And like Ed Boon, he must get asked to do it all the fucking time, and he's still got it in him. Just like sits down and goes, get over here! And you see like Conan shit himself. Because obviously just, Ed Boon just does it all the time, and it must be so fun.
Yeah, and I definitely don't have a high enough voice to be able to do like the toasty.
Toasty.
But,
whoopsie!
Yeah,
I'm probably better at doing like the toast. Let me go. So toasty. I'm probably better at that than I'm doing the get over here.
Yeah, I think I'm probably more along the vocal lines to be able to be like finish him.
Oh, it's so fucking good. Anyway, right, bringing it back to like early days of Mortal Kombat's history. Like as popular as the game was, and it was a big old hit because people did like that digitized violence. Parental groups and pressure groups are like, hey, kids shouldn't be playing this game. And fun fact. Like, when they introduced, like, the rating systems for games that saw Mortal Kombat being, like, rated as a mature game, like, people making Mortal Kombat are like, we agree. Like, we welcome this decision because this is a mature series for older people. And it's nice to now have that categorization so that we can market towards a more mature audience. Because prior to that, video games were seen as just being a thing for kids, which they weren't. And until they introduced a rating system, that was the assumption. But when they now add in a label you can put on adult or mature themed games, it kind of like legitimized like gaming as a medium.
Exactly right, because all of a sudden this is a thing that was set up to stop the government stepping in themselves, right? They did end up opting to, I believe, create the SOB themselves, and I don't know who they is specifically, but yeah, we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty, but yeah, it turns around and gives games a label of, hey, this is actually intended for an adult audience, this isn't just for children.
I always found that interesting, though, because you would think like that decision would be something that people making Mortal Kombat would be annoyed about, right? If like it limits your audience, but at the same time, it literally matured the medium.
And also, it gives that kind of vibe for kids of like, oh, well, we shouldn't be playing this, but, we managed to get a copy. And
that's the thing. There's a lot to be said about how that rating system didn't fucking work. It's like slapping the parental warning explicit lyrics sticker on a CD, right? Where that just didn't work.
It didn't stop me then just going to a rental shop that was more lenient and just taking it from there instead for the weekend.
We don't give a shit, give us a £3. But like, moving back to Mortal Kombat, like, even though that rating system was implemented and welcomed by the people making Mortal Kombat games, those parental groups continued to complain because they had fuck all else to do, right? Like, they clearly weren't fucking their spouses, right? They just sat in their house being bored. Like, how do I make my kids' lives worse? And they continued to complain. Just all I think when I think of those groups is just, they've got nothing else going on, right? I think. Do I mention like the explicit warning stickers on CDs? Do you know how that came about?
I've got no clue, actually, no.
It was Al Gore's wife. Al Gore, like the politician, his wife, who didn't fucking do anything, was at home one day.
Oh, yeah.
And her daughter, I think, was listening to a Prince album. And they went and listened to the lyrics and noticed that Prince made sexual allusions in his music. Who'd have fucking thunk it?
Are y'all ready to get nuts tonight? Let me hear you scream!
And they were so mad about that they spearheaded a campaign with a bunch of other wives who weren't fucking their husbands in Washington and just moaned and bitched at the government until they introduced that system.
Because that's the trial that the person from Twisted Sister turned up at and gave like a really eloquent speech about, you don't fucking understand anything I've written.
And they would bring me in, make me look like a fool, and I would help their cause. They did not know that I could construct a sentence and speak English fluently. And I'm there in my cut-off denim, my skin-tight jeans, my snakeskin boots, and a little bit of eye makeup left underneath, and my big hair. And I ain't getting dressed up for nobody. I'm a dirtbag, and I'm proud.
In specific regards to what Lucas mentioned there, the lead singer of Twisted Sister, Dee Snider, was brought before Congress and asked to answer for like, why their lyrics were so explicit. And specifically, Tipper Gore pointed out of like, yeah, you've got a song here called Under the Knife. That's about sadomasochism.
Under the Blade was about sadomasochism and bondage. It was about my guitar player's throat operation.
And like sexual violence, that's not suitable for children. And Dee Snider just sits there and goes, well, I wrote that song and it's not about that. It's about surgery and the fear of surgery. And it like looked directly at Tipper Gore and said, hey, if you see there's like themes of sexual violence and sadomasochism in my music, that's on fucking you.
No, it's not a wild jump, and I think what I said in one part was that songs allow a person to put their own imagination, experiences, and dreams into the lyrics. People can interpret it many ways. Ms. Gore was looking for sadomasochism and bondage, and she found it. Someone looking for surgical references would have found it as well.
Yeah.
And basically just said, like, get a life. Right? Go fuck your husband. Do anything but just censor my art.
God, yeah. And it's very funny.
It pisses me off so much. It's like those parental groups who are like, oh, there's a book in my kid's school that mentions being gay. Who's that for? Maybe one of the kids in school might be gay.
Yeah.
Right? Why do you give a shit? Go fuck your husband.
And I love the ones where it's like, people who clearly have no grasp complaining about things going on in school. There was that one news interview of someone who's like, did you know that they're like teaching kids while dressing them up in like fursuits and making them like piss in litter boxes?
It's like, it's not a thing.
That is not happening. What are you fucking on?
Yeah. Like the one that was like really harrowing is like it became like the thing for right-wing Twitter to complain about for a couple of days. It's like, do you know they're leaving litter boxes out? So do you know that story that was inspired by? The litter boxes in schools for kids who dress like furries. It wasn't that. They were like portable toilets for kids to shit in while hiding from school shooters. Bringing it back to Mortal Kombat, like these pressure groups continue to just fucking bitch and moan about Mortal Kombat being violent and not for kids, even though every time they did, the people making Mortal Kombat's like, yeah, we agree. So, but it's too violent. So what they say is, okay, what can we do to poke fun at the people who say your game's too violent? Why don't they all just shake hands and be friends at the end of it? It's like, let's literally put that into the game.
A friendship move is a friendly version of a fatality. After the reactions to some of our fatalities from the early Mortal Kombat games, we decided to create the anti-fatality.
Friendship.
Like, do you like the Marge Simpson thing from The Simpsons of like, can I just vote on which horse had the best time? Right? And it's like, yeah, go over there and make the fucking wuss-ass bets. Like, they went, okay, let's just put that into the game. Let's put in a system where you can just be friends with your opponent. And that's how friendships came to be. They're a deliberate swipe at those people who just kept moaning about the game being too violent. It's like, well, okay, fuck it. It's not violent anymore. They're all friends. They kick the shit out of each other for 30 seconds, and now they're best friends. Happy?
Mm-hmm.
Friends. Katana wins. Flawless victory.
And one of the things I love about this is that there's layers to how much of a fuck you it was.
So it wasn't just them doing the friendships?
Well, the friendship itself was deliberately designed to be as obnoxious and clash with the established art style of Mortal Kombat as possible. So when you did it, it was so obvious that this is not supposed to be in the game.
Yeah, even like when you do it and it comes up with like friendship, it comes up in like big rainbow text in like a weird cartoony font and stuff, right?
And every single one is completely cartoonish and ridiculous. Also, they specifically instructed the announcer, who did like the finish him and like fatality. They asked him specifically, sound incredulous when you say friendship.
Right, okay.
Katana wins. Friendship. Friendship?
The announcer in Smash Bros. When you pick Luigi and he sounds surprised you pick Luigi, he's like, Luigi?
He's like, wait, Dark Pit? Who the fuck picked Dark Pit?
But then it goes one layer deeper than that, because the way to pull off a friendship, at least initially, was you had to do it against an opponent who didn't block by only throwing kicks. Or something to that effect. So the only way to do one was to beat someone who was shit at playing Mortal Kombat.
Okay, so then instead of styling on them, you have to be their friends, let them get welcomed into the community.
And this is actually something that, again, Mortal Kombat has continued the trend of, because friendships kind of got removed from the game for a while, and then they got put back in Mortal Kombat 11, and I fucking love them in Mortal Kombat 11, because, again, they're so stupid. But there's some really fun character moments in them, like the one that Melina does, I think, where Melina and Katana just play patty cake with each other. So it's great. Like, you know what? They're sisters. I like that. It's not canon, but in my head, I'd prefer it if Melina and Katana just play patty cake and like waltz away as sisters than ripping each other's skull out.
Yeah, it definitely is one of those things as well when just they've already done that like stupid element of having the friendships in. It's weird that they backed out of it.
I think they should be in there as much as Fatality deserves to be in there, because I think they're as ingrained in the identity of Mortal Kombat as Fatalities are, at least now. Right?
And it's weird when just, all of a sudden friendships, as you say, they were just absent for the longest time. And
it's like animalities, right? They took animalities out, but then they put them back. Like, friendships aren't in Mortal Kombat 1, but animalities are.
Again, why would you make the effort of putting friendships back in only to take them out a game later?
I guess it's a lot of work, right? It must be a lot of modelling work. So I think I think it might have been Ed Boon, where he's showcasing friendships, and there's one that Kotal Khan does. And for his friendship, he's a sun god. He sits down on a sun lounger and just pulls out one of those like sun reflectors and just sits there and suns himself. Like, they talk about like we had to model a chair. Like, this is a game set in fucking, like, Outworld. There were no sun loungers out. We had to model a sun lounger. That took time and effort. Then also we had to, like, create a new model for the thing he's holding and put a light source inside of that. That's development time that could have been spent elsewhere, and we put into this joke, essentially.
He zips onto the screen and there's this gigantic xylophone that he starts playing. Probably what I'm most impressed with this friendship is the animation. It is perfectly synced to the music that is playing. You would never think that those were two separate efforts that were done by different team members.
Because we thought it'd be funny. So I can see from that point of like, it must be a ball ache to make something 90% of players aren't going to see. Or skip after a certain point, right?
True, but I could make the exact same argument about Fatality then, right?
But Fatalities are so ingrained with the series' identity, whereas friendships and stuff aren't, even though I'd argue that they are.
It opens with the most ridiculous animation on Sub-Zero where he's randomly excited and runs off the screen, and you're kind of wondering, what are you so excited about? He comes back on the screen with this old school ice cream vehicle. There's an umbrella overhead. Written on the cooler is Sub-Zero frozen treats. You see Gore with 4 cones, 1 in each hand, and Scorpion where he dropped his cone, because of course Sub-Zero and Scorpion are still rivals at the end of the day, so he's not going to have a picture of Scorpion having fun.
Again, there's a lot of in-jokes, Easter eggs, and just like little character quirks and moments in there. Like I said, the one of like Melina and Katana just embracing each other as sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Jax playing the fucking saxophone. The Jaxophone. Let's fucking go, right?
Friendship.
Yeah, it's a bit odd to me to make that decision to take him out, but I can understand why. It's just, again, to me, I think that as someone who's a bit more of a casual Mortal Kombat fan, they are a part of the game and they are a part of the identity to me. Maybe not as much as Fatalities, but hey.
Fatalities are fun, but for me, I'm a fan of the characters and the lore of Mortal Kombat, and there's just something that doesn't feel right about playing a match where you're Johnny Cage and you're playing against Cassie Cage, who in lore is his daughter, and then ripping a fucking skull out and throwing it at the camera while flipping it off. Something about that doesn't feel right. It's okay for Johnny Cage to do that to Baraka.
He's actively murdering his daughter. It's not really...
And then laughing about it, right? It makes me not like the character of Johnny Cage because now he's a sociopath.
Yeah.
But that's why in my head, like every single Mortal Kombat fight is just on a Johnny Cage movie. And it's all special effects, which is kind of technically canonized by one of Johnny Cage's fatalities where he does an uppercut when he calls cut because it fucks up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like one of his fatalities in one of the games, he does an uppercut and the person's jaw like flies off instead of their head and he calls cut. So the way I've always justified it to myself is every single fatality and fight we see that's not in story mode, it's just Johnny Cage is making it into a movie. And it's all special effects.
So you're essentially saying that your headcanon is the equivalent of Mario Kart?
Yeah.
Well, actually, all the Mario sports games and stuff, they're more canon than the actual games because all of the games are essentially just like them being actors.
Well, it's like Mario 3, right? Where there's the theory that it's all on a stage, right? Because you can see like...
Hasn't outright been confirmed, but yeah, I think like Miyamoto has said, think of them as if they were just actors and they're hanging out in, their free time and stuff. Not necessarily confirming it, but semi-confirming that idea.
So I'm not saying that all of Mortal Kombat, just to clarify, is a Johnny Cage movie. The story mode is story mode, and anyone who dies or gets killed in story mode, that's like a canon death. But all of like, the battles that you'd have with just another player, they are, in my head, just Johnny Cage is making a movie about the events of the game. And it's special effects.
Yeah,
they even have a reference to that with like Johnny Cage's animality, because he's a method actor. His animality is he turns into a shark, and you see him put a big shark head on.
Carriage to wardrobe. Heavy by, take 1. Action!
It's like, yeah, again, it's Johnny Cage on a soundstage. Like, he's just off camera, he yells cut anytime he wants.
Yeah, I do like that idea because obviously there is a canon. They literally had to make one of the characters Liu Kang, right? It's like a sun god that resets the world for Mortal Kombat 1.
Fire god, yeah. Like fire thunder god.
A fire god, right.
Yeah, that's always been my reading on it, and just Mortal Kombat's great. I love that they put friendships in, bring them back, because they're fucking hilarious.
Friendship.